not only did we get to work with some incredible actors who are younger than us, who come from different backgrounds than us. Ronald Pete as Tucker, who's sort of our Q, who provides us with all our gadgets. Obehi Janice, who's plays Heather, who becomes our pal. Anna Akana, who's this incredible musician and actor, who's kind of the biggest star of the show, but you don't know because she's on Instagram and just destroying it there. That was really great. But the best part was that all the teens, quote unquote, in the show are better at being grown-ups than we are, which I think is something that I've felt as a 50-year-old, sort of dealing with the people who are in their 20s and 30s in my circle. In a lot of ways, I've often felt like, oh, you're better at being a grown up than I am.
I feel that too. That this generation is just much more prepared for the level of emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Of people at that age just seems to be significantly more than of our generation.
And the privileging of their own sort of happiness and life mission and tuning into what they want to do, because face it, they're in a world where they know very distinctly no one's going to help you. You are effed.
Right.
All structures that were designed to help people who look like us of our generation are not helping them. So it's like, why wouldn't they become self-fulfilled people? Because there's nothing else. Like, you can't find meaning in a job.
Their first 20 years were so much more chaotic than ours were. I mean, on a national geopolitical level, putting aside whatever individual circumstances they had, but they had 9/11 and they had the Iraq War and they had multiple crazy recessions, and then they have this knowledge of environmental collapse, and student loan debt is just completely different for that generation than it was for us. And then not to mention this worldwide pandemic where they realize most people don't care if we live or die. What? It's just they're so much more battle hardened than we were, It's insane.
It really is insane. I mean, Kurt Cobain died, and that was tough.
Right. I mean, we did have our burdens to carry, no doubt, but I don't know. When we had the Challenger, but the Challenger and 9/11 are just on completely different scales, and they pretended just completely different things.
Grenada for a while was touch and go.
Yeah, Falklands.
I don't know if you remember that was also.
Oh, I have a question about this actually. You guys would know. You guys would be the perfect people to ask this. Last night I went out with a high school friend of mine, and we were sitting around talking kind of about this stuff. What were the big events of our childhood? Why did we invade Panama?
What Noriega was selling drugs, I think, and not through our, I think
accepted channels.
Listen, I think, and at one point he threatened to blow the whistle on George Herbert Walker Bush, who was a CIA director when Noriega was working for us. And I don't know how that worked out. I think
it was cocaine stuff, right?
I'm pretty sure.
And then we blasted Guns N' Roses 24 hours a day outside his palace, right? To drive him crazy? Yeah.
Yes.
And let me ask you this question, Sam. You're actually the perfect person to ask, as long as we're on this little tangent here. I hope this is okay. Forgive me. Sam, what was the name of the guy who made a name for himself back in the early 2000s? When I was doing the cartoon, he was repurposing old World War II propaganda posters and making them about the war on terror. And they were very sarcastic and ironic. And he became famous because he told people he was a former Marine who had participated in an air raid in Panama. And then it turned out he made it all up.
I don't know who that is.
I don't know. I have no memory of this at all.
Something. Anyway, that was a Panama tangent.
Since this brain trust has failed, you're going to go to the internet now?
Yeah, I'll try the internet now for a second opinion.
Yeah.
I do remember a guy in different guy, I think, but in Cambridge, 10 years before that, 12 years before that, was putting up fake street signs with basically sort of situationist inspired slogans.
I know you were loving that. That was situationists.
Yeah, that was a fun time. But all
Emma,
that's
isn't it
gone.
fun to hang out with
fun.
middle-aged men where they half remember things?
Yeah, that's a great podcast or broadcast or whatever this might be.
Poor Emma. This is like going home for Thanksgiving and just like, oh God.
What was the name of the guy who used to stand on the corner of Harvard Ave and wait for the bus?
That was the other thing.
Mr. Butch. No, that was Harvard Square.
That was the other thing that I really appreciated about the show, because I got to, like I say, I got through the first 4 episodes of season 1, and one of them was about the party area up on like in the woods.
Party Pines.
Yeah.
We had that in Worcester, Newton Hill, where it was like people would go up back behind the school, and it was like in the woods, as it were, in Worcester, and there was keggers up there, and that's where people would party. And it just made me think, like, if I went up there today, like, what would people be doing? Like, oh no, we turned it into like actually a little rec area. We've got ping pong and we've done,
on our show, the kids turn Party Pines into
TED Talk.
Yeah, they turn it into a TED Talk.
Right.
Sorry, I talked over you there, Dave Reese.
Oh, I was going to say
Ian Wright.
Yes, that's it. That was his name. That was
Wait
his
a second,
name.
is that really
Incredible.
from Matt? No, that's from Matt's computer.
What a pull. Yeah.
What?
Panama.
I didn't know that guy. I knew.
Ian Wright.
You would
Mike and
recognize
Ian
the stuff. You would
Ward
recognize it. It went viral back in like 2001, 2002.
And by viral, that means it's stickers on lampposts.
Exactly. People printed it up and put it on street
And
poles.
handed it out to their friends. Yeah.
East
It was
Village.
a wacky time because all these little invasions, Operation Just Cause or whatever Panama was called, Grenada. You know, we had just in the late 80s into the 90s, we had just come out of the shadow of the Cold War and the constant fear of nuclear annihilation. And we're getting back into it now, and it's a real nostalgia trip. Like
totally.
Late 80s and 90s was still a time where like you felt that the promises that were being made, at least to white men, were going to get kept. And
it's the Fukuyama stuff.
Yeah, like the economic promises, the idea that if you work, you can make money. If you do this, like, my son who is 16 is watching Friends all the time now. I'm not like he is absolutely fascinated with it. I think for him it's like Game of Thrones. Like this is a fantasy world in which people have large apartments and leisure time and a lot of sweater vests and
like
not
careers, as opposed to like everybody's working in marketing or driving Uber or something like that.
Yeah. They all have genuine careers. And the actor actually is a working actor. The masseuse is actually able to support herself in Manhattan,
right?
As a freelance masseuse, and that's her only gig. I mean, it's just such a fantasy. It's just, and of course, until Aisha comes on the show later on, 0 cast members of color. It was just such a bizarre alternate universe that. I have to tell them, no, that's what it was like. That's a little bit of what it was like if you were in a certain demographic bubble in New York City in the 90s. And you felt things will work out. And no one feels that now. And I can't, I don't prefer the past, honestly. I mean, what's going on now is terrible, but it's good that we're talking about how it doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah, and that like I say, for this audience in particular, I feel like your show, the politics are right there. I mean, I think probably folks remember David, Get Your War On. Emma, do you remember? I feel like Emma was probably like.
Well, you mentioned Kurt Cobain. He died like 2 weeks before I was born. So.
Wow, there we go. Okay. There we go.
Yep.
So you don't remember watching Kurt Loder's announcement on MTV News in real time in the living room of your college housing?
In utero, I remember it. I mean, look,
you felt it. Yeah.
That was a Nirvana reference in.
I was going to say that was the name of an album. I'm pretty sure.
See?
That's well done.
So Ben Shapiro calling Joe Biden the Kurt Cobain of politics didn't resonate with you?
We did talk about it a bit. It did not. It did not.
Did he say that?
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
he did.
But it doesn't make any sense
Because he's a monster.
Well, yeah, but it was just a reference to the suicide.
Right.
Joe Biden is the Cobain of politics because he's putting the shotgun in the mouth of America and blowing his brains all over the wall, which would mean that he is both American
homicide.
Joe Biden, right?
A rare misstep from Ben Shapiro.
A slight rhetorical slip up from a monster.